Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to get right into it today. I have some thoughts. I've been trying to make this video for like the past 24 hours. And I just made another version that I think I'll post on other platforms, but I wanted to talk with you guys here on YouTube and Rumble. So first off, Charlie Kirk was an innocent man. He had not been convicted of any crime. He had not been tried in a court of law. He hadn't even been accused of any crime. Because in America, having an opinion and sharing it is not a crime. And yet that is exactly what he was executed for, without a trial, in front of his wife, his children, and 3,000 college students who are now going to be traumatized, and really the entire world, for the crime of having his opinion and sharing it. And I have been seeing some people trying to tacitly justify, I've been seeing a lot of people trying to tacitly justify this, saying, oh, well, maybe he shouldn't have been killed, but he did harm a lot of people with his opinions, and he did not. You cannot be harmed by opinions that someone thinks, someone speaks, someone writes. You cannot be harmed by that. That's the entire point of the First Amendment, of free speech, of public discourse and dialogue. The fact of the matter is, people on the left, they value diversity. Well, they should understand that we're not all going to think alike. And it is wrong for you to try to justify violence by suggesting that someone's opinion is harming you. Words are not violence. And that is why violence in response to words is always wrong. I do want to say something here, though, because it needs to be said, it needs to be made clear, and I'm far from the first to say it, but I'm going to reiterate it here again today. Calling your political opponents Nazis, white supremacists, fascists, I'm not going to go so far as to say that that's violence, because again, those are just words, but those labels are incredibly dangerous. And they are un-American, and we are seeing the consequences of that here today, because when you call someone a Nazi, a fascist, which used to mean a very specific thing and should still mean a very specific thing, and it doesn't just mean anyone who disagrees with you, when you throw around those labels so callously, really to almost half of the country at this point, you put a target on their backs. Because if we're being honest, if you really believe that there are Nazis trying to take over the U.S. and that in fact they're in the White House right now, and that there is a concerted effort to bring back fascism and that they might actually be starting to be successful, you have a moral imperative, and it is not to debate the Nazis, right? So you go around labeling everyone a Nazi, you say punch a Nazi, oh, we're kind of just joking, but also not really. And then it's only a matter of time before punch a Nazi turns into shoot one. It's only a matter of time. And that's where we are at today, unfortunately. Because when you label people as Nazis, you dehumanize them and you justify whatever you're going to do to them. And if you are cheering this on, just to be very clear, you're not cheering on justice, you're cheering on authoritarianism, you're cheering on fascism, you are cheering on evil. And as many others, I do just towards that end, please don't tell me that you're anti-fascist and on the right side of history when you are endorsing or excusing or even celebrating using violence to silence your political opponents. Okay, that's not anti-fascist, just so we're clear. And as others have pointed out, Charlie Kirk did everything right. He was not a politician. I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with being a politician, but he was simply a person who was inviting people to have largely respectful public debates. That's it. He wasn't shaping policy, he wasn't writing laws, and now if he had been doing those things, it would not justify violence against him at all. But he was just a guy sharing his opinions publicly. That's it. He was a political commentator. And he was not directly impacting your life negatively in any way, and yet he was killed for being a political commentator. That is part of what is so really striking about this. And now we have the people who are always crying for gun control. They are cheering on a man being shot in the neck in front of his children. And I really just think that that perfectly sums up how completely incoherent and fraudulent and evil the left is. And to be very clear, the right is not perfect. Okay, we are not angels. We have our bad apples as well. But however, there is nowhere near the level of spiritual sickness and really demonic possession on the right as we are seeing on the left right now. And we saw it during Butler, Pennsylvania, when they made the attempt on Trump's life, except this is 1,000 times worse because, unfortunately, the shooter did not miss in this case, and we have people celebrating that. And if the roles were reversed, God forbid, and it had been some progressive political commentator and activist who had done to them what was done to Charlie, you would be hard-pressed to find conservatives who would celebrate that or even just dismiss it and excuse it. You would be hard-pressed. And I certainly wouldn't do it. Nobody I know who's a conservative would do it. And I said the same thing during Butler. If it had been, God forbid, Kamala Harris or Joe Biden on that stage, you couldn't pay me enough money to lament the fact that the shooter missed. And those are people, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, those are people whose opinions I think are evil, whose policies I think are vile. But you have to be able to separate out the opinion from the opinion holder, because nobody deserves to die for their political opinions. And that is what happened with Charlie Kirk. And 3,000 college students watched it, were traumatized by it, will forever be traumatized by seeing that firsthand. Then millions more people watched it on their screens at home, self-included. And that'll stay in our hearts and in our minds and on the internet forever. And America will never be the same. America is forever changed. We don't know in what way, but it's not wholly dissimilar to 9/11. Now, I'm not comparing the level of death and devastation to 9/11 because obviously it's not comparable. But what I am saying is our nation changed forever that day, and in ways that we could not yet fathom. And our nation changed forever on Wednesday in ways that we cannot yet fathom. America is forever changed. And the ironic thing is that all of the leftists cheering this on, or even just saying, I don't care, which by the way is just as bad. Okay, don't fool yourself into thinking, saying that you don't care is more moral or better than cheering it on. It's not. It's callousness. It's callousness. It's inhumane towards the loss of innocent human life. But the leftists who are cheering this on, they're actually creating exactly what they don't want. They have not silenced Charlie Kirk in the way that they think they have. They have not silenced this movement. I promise you, they have created thousands more Charlie Kirks. I feel it too, and I'm not even a young person, but they have lit a fire under young people who already admired Charlie Kirk and now want to take up the mantle for him. They lit that fire. And they also reignited this fire of people leaving the left. And I see it all over TikTok. It happened after Butler. But again, this is 1,000 times worse. People who are being confronted with their liberal cohorts celebrating this. And they're being confronted firsthand in a way that you cannot look away from with the violence, the inhumanity, and the cruelty. And they are understanding that the modern day left does not represent them. And that doesn't mean that they're going to come to quote unquote my side and be a Christian or conservative or MAGA, but they're understanding again that the modern day left does not represent them. And I know because it happened to me. Now, a lot of you guys know my story. I'm not going to go into long details, but I have a lot of new people here. So I was on the left. I voted for Obama. I voted for Hillary Clinton. And I started the year 2020 still on the left, still a Democrat. If nothing had happened, I probably would have voted for Joe Biden that November. But something happened, and it was called COVID. And I followed all the rules with COVID. I did everything that was asked of me. But by the time summer 2020 came around, I was wondering, when are we going to get back to work? Because it was clear really early on that a lot of us were going to survive this, but I didn't know if I was going to survive the response to it. And then George Floyd happened, and we were all told that we could go out and protest or even riot, but we still couldn't go to work. And that blew my mind because I needed to go to work. It turns out my job is essential to me, even though I was deemed non-essential. And when I brought up this hypocrisy and this need of mine and millions of people, I was called racist and selfish by every single liberal person that I knew. And I knew a lot of them at the time because I was a liberal. They refused to acknowledge that I might have any honest reason for disagreeing with them, to quote the great Thomas Sowell. And so I left the left. And I did not become a Christian conservative overnight. I called myself politically homeless for a while. But the thing is, I started listening to these voices that I had never listened to before, that I had previously dismissed, and one of them was Charlie Kirk. And what I realized is that they're not racist, actually, and they make sense. Even crazier, they make sense. And slowly I started feeling compelled to open my Bible again, and I started realizing I am a conservative Christian because it makes sense. And the left hates that, but see, they actually created that, just like they created a whole new generation this week. A few more things I want to say here in wrapping up. I keep hearing a lot of people say that Charlie Kirk was bad, and so he deserved it. And the thing of it is we're all bad. We're all bad. We're all sinners. There are no good people. We all fall short of the glory of God. And before God, before Christ, you are no better than whatever you thought Charlie Kirk was. But I do know a lot of people watch me who are not believers. So maybe you don't totally buy that. And maybe there are people out there who believe, as the left seems to believe, that the world can be neatly divided into good people and bad people. I don't believe that it can. Life is not so black and white. But even if it could, you are not one of the good people. If you are celebrating this or excusing this, you're not one of the good ones. So even if the world can be divided between good and bad, you're on the side of bad. In fact, you have become exactly what you claim to hate. You are intolerant. You are bigoted. You are hateful. You are cruel. You are not empathetic. You are exactly what you claim to hate. But see, this is part of the left's playbook. Because it's okay when they do it because they're doing it to Nazis. And in that way, they justify every ounce of cruelty and inhumanity and violence that they want, because when they do it, they're doing it to Nazis. And so the ends always justify the means. And, I said I was called racist and selfish, and that spurned my leaving the left. Well, once I went public and started talking about my opinions in 2021, it only got worse from there, and I've been called so many worse things. I was just on a college campus a couple months ago, doing an event like Charlie Kirk did, and I was called Nazi to my face, and I felt firsthand, like I always feel when I'm on college campuses, and even when I'm just online, the palpable hatred, but it's amplified on college campuses, the palpable hatred of these people. Not all of them, but a good majority of them. They cannot stand hearing another opinion, and they hate you for it. And instead of actually debating the facts with you, they will just spew vile things at you. And actually, at the last campus I was at, they had a free speech warning outside of our event. They warned students before they entered the zone of our event that free speech was being exercised here. That's the state of modern day American college campuses. And this was actually my alma mater. It wasn't like this liberal bastion, but I guess it is now, where you need to be warned of free speech. But when you dismiss someone as a Nazi, when you dehumanize someone as a Nazi, a white supremacist, a fascist, you're allowed to do whatever. It's okay. It's even moral, because you're taking care of Nazis. I want people to understand that the violence, the inhumanity, the cruelty, it's not a bug. It's not a defect of the left. It's a feature. It's the point. It's part of the left. And this is not political. This is spiritual. Charlie Kirk was an innocent man. I will say that again. And what happened to him should horrify you. And it doesn't have anything to do with whether you agreed with him or not. It should horrify you. And if it doesn't, if you are excusing it, if you're shrugging it off, if you're endorsing it, if you're even celebrating it, you are siding with evil. But if you condemn it, if you stand for free speech, for debate, for the dignity of human life, then you are on the side of America, and America needs you right now. America is forever changed. A lot of people have said that this is a turning point in American history, and I believe that it is. And I believe that we also should be forever changed. And you can take from that what you will, however you think you need to operate moving forward, however we think we need to operate moving forward. But I hope that in determining what we should do next, and I admit I don't have all the answers, that you and I and we keep in mind what Charlie Kirk would have done next, because that's really all that we can do. And that would be the best way to honor his legacy. And I think that's pretty much all that I have to say on that right now. I want to let you guys know that if this is affecting you in a significant way, you're not alone. I've been completely blindsided by my own reaction to this. I always kind of side-eyed anyone who, got really emotional over the death of celebrities. I never really understood it. This is the first time that I have really been impacted by the death of someone that I didn't really know. I had been to his events and things like that, but I didn't really know him. But I feel like I know him now just because of the like devastation that I'm feeling. And at the end of the day, it's not really just a celebrity death. I mean, he was more than a celebrity. He was a God-fearing man who was spreading the word of God. He was obviously a huge, larger-than-life political figure, and he was killed for his opinions. And in such a senseless, violent way that, by the way, was broadcast all over our phones. And I've never seen anything like that before. And I've never had a public political assassination like this before. And it has affected me really deeply. I don't feel like posting about anything else. I don't feel like talking about anything else. I don't feel like going back to the regular news and going back to normal, whatever that means. I'm so deeply impacted by this. And not just because I'm afraid, kind of for myself and for my friends who do this, even though I'm nowhere near the level of Charlie Kirk, but because I'm afraid for our country. This is a really bad place. And to not realize that, to think that it doesn't affect you because you're liberal or you're not political or you didn't like Charlie Kirk, that's really myopic and short-sighted and just not true. This affects all of us. And I hope that we proceed forward with a great deal of care and intention. And I am hopeful that we can save America. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.